All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Nick's Trip by George Pelecanos. This is book, I guess, #2 in the Nick Stefanos trilogy. I have already read and reviewed book #1, A Firing Offense. So if you want to watch this review first, just type in my last name, Durfee, into your YouTube search bar, and then the title of the book and the video review will magically appear upon your screen. Now, you don't have to have read this book to enjoy this book. They are, even though it even though this trilogy follows the same private investigator, each one of these books is a separate story of itself. Book #3 is Down by the River Where the Dead Men Go. And there is a prequel book to this trilogy called The Big Blowdown, and it is about Nick Stefanos' grandfather or something like that. Anyway, those are the books. We'll put these over here. And we'll talk about, which one are we doing? Oh, it's Nick's Trip. That's the one we're reviewing. Let's get to it. Nick's Trip. Well, the covers are cool. Let's talk about the covers first. You know I love graphic design and cover illustration. I mean, the covers are really dope for all three books. I like them. Got a nice theme to them. They've got, they look good on the shelf together. I do have all of the George Pelecanos novels over here. Let's pan through my library. We'll show you my George Pelecanos collection right there. Anyway, there's a lot of different books he writes. He's written 3 or 4 different series, and each series is no more than like 3 to 5 books each. And then he's got a handful of standalone novels. Let's get into Nick's Trip. Came out in 1993. So George Pelecanos has been writing a lot. If you want to know what kind of style he writes in, it's sort of hard-boiled, noir-esque fiction. If you've ever seen the television show HBO's The Wire, George Pelecanos is one of the screenwriters for that show. He also wrote The Deuce, if you saw The Deuce on HBO, about the 42nd Street in New York. That was also screenwritten by George Pelecanos. He might have wrote for Treme. I can't remember. He's written for a lot of HBO shows. So he's got a real hard, gritty, realistic feel to his novels. All of his novels take place in Washington, D.C. They're not political thrillers at all. They are about the nuts and bolts and inner workings of the D.C. neighborhoods and ghettos and places like that. Nick Stefanos, in book 1, which was called A Firing Offense, which I showed you, was a salesman, wanted to be a private investigator, took his first case. His first case played out in book 1. Now he's kind of abandoned the sales job, and now he works at a bar. And, he's still trying to be a private investigator, but work is hard to come by. He's, in this, but at the bar, trouble and women are easy to come by. I mean, that's one of the allures of the bar, but he's working at this bar. The bar is, got a cast of characters that frequent the bar. There's Happy, there's Bubba, there's Buddy, there's the cop, Danny Boyle, and these kind of characters are just kind of in the bar at the beginning of the book. And then it's a cop bar. It's also, there's a lot of police that come into the bar. It's sort of a police hangout. And Nick is an investigator, and so it's like a little happy family at the bar, it's kind of like Cheers. Everybody knows your name. And, so then you got to pay attention because, some of these characters that are at the bar are just kind of casually mentioned. And then, they sort of play a bigger role in the end of the story. For instance, some of the cops, like Danny Boyle, things like that. Anyway, so Nick has a buddy named Billy Goodrich. Billy Goodrich comes in to the bar Now, they haven't seen each other in 15 years. They were high school buddies. In fact, Billy Goodrich and Nick, one summer in 1976, they took a trip, like a road trip together as young men to New Orleans and had a great adventure, bonded, kind of, but then lost touch for a while. But now Billy Goodrich comes into the bar looking for Nick, and he's got a case. I need to hire you as an investigator. And so Nick is like, oh, cool. You know, it's a little sus that his best friend is asking this, but whatever. Billy enters the bar and says, my wife April has left me for a small-time hoodlum crime boss / bad guy named Joey D. Giordano. Joey D. Giordano. Joey D. Giordano. That was his name. And so he takes the case. Nick takes the case. Well, I will go look for your wife. He said, now Billy Goodrich is like, I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to see if it's true that my wife left me for this guy. I don't really want you to say anything to her. I just want to know the truth. I want to know what's happened to her. And so Nick takes the case, and of course it spirals out of control, as it would, Otherwise we don't have a story to tell. And one of the cool things about this book is Nick himself, the main character, gives a little bit of a backstory to his grandfather and how his grandfather immigrated to the United States and set up shop in D.C. and all that, which is interesting because that story eventually gets told in The Big Blowdown. And this was written well after this was written, so I think he was setting something up in this book so he could do this prequel book, which is cool. It was like a little Easter egg for me personally. Anyway, so what happens when he goes off on this adventure to find this guy's wife, his buddy's wife? Well, the truth is, and this is not spoilery, this is kind of information that's on the back here. The truth is that April didn't leave Billy Goodrich for this small-time crime boss. She actually left her husband for a hog farmer / bondage freak named Tommy Crane. Not only that, but they also they also got away with stealing like $200,000 of cash from the small-time hoodlum Joey Giordano. And so now they've got a lot of people hunting them, like a myriad of enemies just on the trail of this woman and this, dude. And it's a tough case. It spirals into a lot of different plot things and a lot of different like betrayals and ins and outs and who's doing what, who's on the up and up, which cops in the cop bar are really good cops and bad cops. And it's just, it really is a really interesting, really good story, very well told, and George Pelecanos' writing style is right up my alley. That's why I him and Dennis Lehane, I just love those guys. They're kind of like similar in style, if you like Dennis Lehane. Just really good writing, really, even though these are hard-boiled crime fiction, there's really a lot to be said about the world that we live in when you read these books, and Pelecanos spells that out. Not only that, but Pelecanos has a real good way of sprinkling in pop culture references in his book, and you can kind of tell, you get an idea of Pelecanos' taste in movies and music and artwork and books and stuff just by reading his own writing, because he just tosses that kind of thing in, much like Stephen King does a lot, and I like those kind of things. Anyway, I really liked this. I liked this one. Gosh, the first one was so good too. I don't know, I was gonna say I like this one better than book one, but A Firing Offense was great. They're both great. I give them both. I mean, this is like literally almost a 10 out of 10 when it comes to hard-boiled crime fiction. And so I'm really kind of excited to get started on Down by the River Where the Dead Men Go and finish out the trilogy real soon here. And then maybe read the prequel down the road sometime. But anyway, that's my review of Nick's Trip by George Pelecanos.